let me go through a couple of things, and this essentially is somewhat of what I hope that we would discuss. It's in no particular order, and this may make no sense at the moment, flying and faculty, what state universities represent, South Dakota, the region and opportunity, revenue and marketing, which I would call our new normal, and presidential themes and brothers and sisters. And so let me shift into some of that right now, because one of the things I noticed most when I first arrived here just 7 weeks ago was this very strong can-do spirit. And I've said that a number of times. This campus community has a very strong can-do spirit, but I've also noticed this very unique and strong sense of optimism. An optimism that says we can, as an institution, define ourselves to be very unique, very bold, and very responsive to our community. And I consider that really many strengths. Now, some of you know that I like to talk about my grandmother because she always told stories. And in her stories, she would say, in essence, it's not the story you tell, it's the meaning and message after the story that you want people to have. And so I'm going to tell you a story about flying airplanes and how it relates to the faculty. Okay? One day, long ago, let's call it 1998 or so, I wanted to learn how to fly. Anyone in here fly airplanes? Okay, just a few. And so about 1998, I wanted to learn how to fly. So I called the local airport, and I said, I'd like to learn how to fly. And they said, oh, sure, no problem. Come on down. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. And so Saturday morning in Abilene, Texas, Elmdale Air Park, I get in the car, and I drive down to Elmdale Air Park. And there is a gentleman, about 80 years old, who will be my flight instructor. And he's a young 80 years old, and I mean that with all sincerity. Wise as all could be and all of those things. And he says, Tom, are you Tom? I said, yes, I am. Well, come on over here. Let me show you the airplane. So he walks me over to the airplane, and he says, here's this plane, and I won't describe it all since many of you wouldn't know it anyway, but he says, let's look at this. Here's the propeller, that big windmill in the front that we all talk about. We walked around, looked at the wing. He called a couple of things, a few different things on an airplane. It looked like a tail, but he called it a vertical stabilizer. We went over here again, and he looked around, and a few other things. He said, here's the horizontal stabilizer. It still looked like the tail to me. But all of those things he said, he says, what do you think, Tom? And I looked at him with a blank stare and said, think about what? He said, well, get in the plane. Let me show you some of the things that, and how the plane works. So I sit in the plane, and he goes, no, the other side. The pilot often sits in the left side in an airplane. So he says, sit in the left side so you can get a better picture of all these dials and gadgets. So I get in, and I sit down in the left side, and he sits down in the right side. And he says, this dial does this dial does this dial does this, this pushes you do them. And that's what it sounded like to me when he said it. But in reality, he said, this is your airspeed. This tells you whether you're going left or right. This tells you whether you're going up or down. You pull this, you go up. You push that, you go down. You turn right, you turn left. All of those things, not that different from a car after you begin to understand it. But to me, that first moment, it was this, and none of it made sense. He looked at me again, Tom, what do you think? I said, think about what? With a stare look. He said, no, why don't we just start it up and taxi around a little bit? So he says, let's start it up. Push this in, put a little fuel in. Now, you see, I'm just doing exactly what he tells me to do. I do that. He says, push this button and it'll start. I push that button, and the engine's starting. And I'm thinking, whoa, this thing really does make a nice little sound. He says, push this thing in and let's go down there and just see what it does. And I think, down where? And he goes, down there. And so we start driving, taxiing, and he says, push this lever, the rudder, right to go right, push it left to go left on the ground, and that's how you steer the airplane. And so he says, do that a little bit, and I'm doing that, and I'm actually surprisingly going really straight. And so we're driving down to the end of this, the far end of the runway, and he says, let's go back the other way. Turn it around, and I guess I did that okay. And we go all the way to the back, and he looks at me again and says, Tom, what do you think? And I say, think about what? He says, let's go fly. Fly? Flying was not part of the equation for me when I woke up at 8 o'clock that morning to go to the airport. I thought we were just going to talk about it. That's what I thought. He said, let's go fly. Go on out to the runway, and we'll just see what happens. See what happens? I'm thinking. So we go out to the runway. He says, let's go. Fly. Push it in, which is the throttle. And before I can think, I'm actually pushing in the throttle. Now, the side of me says, stop, run, get out. But he says, push it in, let's go. So the plane starts going, and it starts going, and I feel the rumble of the wheels, the vibration of the wheels, and about halfway down the runway, it becomes really smooth. Really, really smooth and really, really quiet. But I'm holding on like this. And I don't want to look out the window, but I so badly want to look out the window. So I'm looking out, and I realize I'm flying. I'm really flying. This is really cool. I'm flying. And we go off a little further, and we turn, and we go do some maneuvers and practice some other things. And about 20, 30 minutes later, he says, let's go back to the airport, and we'll talk about it. And surprisingly, he says, the airport's that way. And as we get close, he says, I've got the airplane. So clearly, I wasn't about to land the airplane yet. But he landed the plane. We parked it. I lived to tell the story, and we went over it. And a few short 6 months later, I actually earned my pilot's license, and later my instrument rating license. Why do I tell you that story? I say that for a number of different reasons. Because I fly a lot now, I think some of you know, and I have a very, very small airplane out at the local airport. And when I fly my kids or friends or others, there are times I will say, would you like to fly the plane? And when I'm letting them do that, I might be helping them just a little without them really knowing it. It might be when they're making a turn, which you want them to have a perfect turn, I might just nudge the yoke, the steering wheel in front on my side, because there's two on each side. I might just nudge it with my hand while they're concentrating on what's happening around them. I might just nudge it a little, and it's a perfect turn. Or when we're trying to stabilize the plane, I might just tap one of the rudders in flight just to stabilize the tail of the airplane so it's a perfect flight. And then it hit me when I was talking about what to faculty do and things like that. There's really some similarities when we link this to the academy and the work that we do. Because the absolute best in our field, the masterful teaching professor, is outstanding at getting people to critically think when they don't think they could, or to critically or absolutely or funly fly when they didn't think they could, or to see the aha moment when they didn't think they could, in a way. That would be our student body. And in that scenario, in so many ways, I realized, too, that it wasn't me keeping the airplane straight, going down the runway at 40, 50 miles an hour. There was someone on the right side nudging it just a little, tapping the rudder just a little. So while I thought I was doing a great job, he was helping me ever so slightly to become a really, really good pilot. And in the end, I realized that he helped me become a really good pilot, just like many of our faculty do the exact same thing without a student ever, never knowing it. And that's the strength of the work that we do in higher education in the academy. Now let me talk about some professors. And I'm not going to talk about all of you. Sorry if you're seeing your name for the first time and you're nervous and think I'm going to call you up here. I'm not going to do that, okay? So you're okay. But as I mentioned before, every professor, every lecturer, and every adjunct, and I did say that word adjunct, work each day to try and make a better environment for not only their discipline, their profession, but also our students. I think that's a selfless act in patience and perseverance, because seldom do we ever really know what a student will become 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now. All we can hope for is that they will take the best, the absolute best of what we're giving them today and turning it into something greater for the betterment of our common good in society. I think that's what we believe as academicians. The three individuals I probably will say a few things about is Dr. Wee Song, Dr. John Nero, and Dr. Amelia Flint. I think most of you know her as Dr. Bolshin. Is that correct? Are all three of you here by chance? I'm just curious. Okay, there you are. So Dr. Song last semester, and I think some of you know this, integrated her coursework into a practical learning experience to better serve the surrounding community. What they did was they brought students to present marketing plans to 3 organizations in the local area: Sanford Underground Research Facility, the Headley Recreation Center, and ROTC. Now the significance of this is that the collaboration between the faculty, the student, and those 3 organizations introduced marketing plans in areas that they ordinarily wouldn't be introduced. I think the significance, though, is our students not only gained an experience learning how to put into practicality marketing plans and the work that they were studying, but it also helped 3 organizations that are part of our local community. Dr. John Nero provided leadership along with the many in the music department, traveled for 12 days, I believe it was, to Italy, like many of us would like to go to Italy. But we also know we can't always go there, and I think it was a funding thing that they only can do that so many years, so many other, well, not every year, let me put it that way. While they were there, not only the 50-plus faculty and students that traveled, the significance of what they were doing was promoting the beauty of music. Now, we also can easily take that for granted because that transcends many different languages. They performed 3 distinct concerts: Venice, Rome, and the Vatican, to full houses. So it was quite the event. But the way I want you to look at it is these 50-plus colleagues were sharing something that was very valuable to them: the beauty of music in a different country. And it brought faculty and students together and alumni in a way that we really wanted to happen in the perfect scenario, sharing a common theme and a common interest and sharing it with others in other places. The third story, if I could talk about, is Seoul, Korea, and Special Olympics. Dr. Amelia Flint, along with a team of students and graduates, spent 2 weeks in Korea, Seoul, Korea, South Korea, studying performance anxiety in athletes with intellectual disabilities. Now think that through for just a moment, because while they were there, they also attended the Global Summit on ending the cycle of poverty and exclusion of people with disabilities. That's one of our strengths as a university or as a people in the United States. Using our intellectual capital. Our greatest strength as a university, in my opinion, is our intellectual capital. We can lift a lot of things, but the things that we do best are causing other people to think and to do things differently. And so what they did, in essence, was use our intellectual capital to change how people view individuals with disabilities. If I haven't said it to you before, I'm going to say it right now, and hold it of me from here on out. Faculty are very important. They're important to me, and they're important to this university. So if you will join me right now in acknowledging Dr. Sarver, Dr. Song, Dr. Nero, and Dr. Flint, and all the other faculty here for the quality work that they do on this university campus. And so I want to talk about teachers for just a moment. And in the simplest way that I could say this, teachers matter. They matter a lot. Our base has always been education. Now we can disagree with that, and that would be okay. But from our founding in 1883, we have served the nation, literally the nation, through our teacher education program. It is the thing that has touched thousands of kids, not only in South Dakota, but throughout the United States, if not world. In South Dakota, there are 1,874 physicians, 1,405 attorneys, 1,007 professional engineers, and what's the last one? 441 dentists. There are also a large number of bankers, clergy, government officials, technicians, you name it. Whether you have a high school degree or a college degree, the root of that work and the root of your success is what? The teacher. The teacher. And so I'd rather have us embrace that base that we have as a campus because it's fairly significant. It doesn't matter where a student went to school because the root is always that teacher, coaching and guiding them. And you can reference the teacher to the faculty member. I know we tend not to do that, but there's many similarities at the root level. Why wouldn't we embrace one of our greatest strengths as a university? Let me put it this way one more time, because here are some examples of the successes. BH, MS Curriculum and Instruction graduate, Katie Anderson. I don't know how many of you know Katie Anderson. She teaches middle school science and reading in Rapid City. She was named the 2013 South Dakota Teacher of the Year. The 2013 South Dakota Teacher of the Year, Katie Anderson, a BH alum. In 2012, another MS in Curriculum and Instruction graduate, two of them in fact, Ann Anderson and Aaron Marsh, received the nation's highest honor in K-12 teaching in the fields of math and science. So when we think about the strength in our base, let's embrace that one and toot it loudly for everyone to hear. Absolutely, that's what we are. And let me tell you what else we are. Boom, 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 boom. Because if that is our best reference, that's a pretty darn good one, I would say, on any annual basis. Are you sticking with me so far? You know, interestingly, the person with the college degree represents 1 out of 100. And when we think about that individual and all the challenges we are faced with, it is usually the college graduate that is asked to deal with the most complex challenges on our earth. It's usually the college graduate and their colleagues that will seek ways to find cures for AIDS, or create clean water, or to build buildings, or to find new energy sources, or all those other things that we do. And almost all of them, better than 50%, just under 50%, are products of state universities just like us. And so when I talked about we have no idea what our students may become later on, we are products of state. Many of us in this room are products of state universities. And whether it is us creating it or creating a legacy of other students who may ultimately recreate it, we have no idea. But we have to blindly do it, knowing that that is what we do. That's what is expected of us in many different ways. Society with the state university, and I'll tell you a little bit about what the state universities look like, really want to know a couple of things. They want to know that the value, and I'm talking about the citizenry that is out there, the value of providing money to a university is worth it. They want people who come to a university to find gainful employment afterwards, really to help the greater good in society. They also want to know that if we ask society to raise the cost for higher education, that they're going to get a good investment, rate of return on that investment. It really is the public's investment, and it may be one of the areas we've always fallen short of in at least the last decade, if not 2 decades, selling why it really matters as a university to earn a college education and why that investment has a greater return if you finish your college degree. And I'll talk about that in just a quick second. What we really look like is this, and this is not that unusual. We are a member of ASCU, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. It's a collection of different universities that form to share resources and help each other out. That's much like many of the other organizations you're part of collectively. What this slide really is trying to present is if you look at all of the ASCU universities, 38% of them are located in small towns just like Spearfish. Small towns just like Spearfish. 49% of all bachelor's degrees are from public 4-year universities just like us. You can see some of the other things there. Those same state universities, and take a good look at this, 66% of them offer degrees in education. 55. Our profile as a state university and the majors we offer are probably the right ones for the moment. I mean, the good news is, and the bad news, is South Dakota has a stable employment economy. In fact, job growth is slightly up. But we also share a common problem with our neighbors, and that would be Minnesota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, and a few others. That commonality is the decline in high school graduates. But the good news is Wyoming is holding somewhat stable, and we're the closest to them. And so there is opportunity in some of these numbers in a fairly significant way. But even saying that, that isn't our greatest challenge. Our greatest challenge, if I could talk a little bit about those, would be revenue and marketing. In a unique way, we have a revenue problem and a marketing problem sometimes that we get to work through as a collective team. It should seem that we have outstanding people on this campus. We have a great relationship with the University Center Rapid City. We have many emerging popular programs, and I'll talk about some of those in just a moment. We're in a top 7 city in the United States, yet we still have cash flow that we have to find. And part of that is we're just not receiving the same amount of money from the state as we used to. And I think all of us know that. There was a time, there was a greater investment in higher education, and the truth is we're fighting as a board, as a system, to try and get some of that back to reduce the cost to the student. These 2 slides are indicative of some of the challenges that we are facing, though. Let's look at it. Rushmore Mall in Rapid City. That sign there has a banner, I don't know if you can see it, and it's not BH. Can you see that? There was a time, our banner stood there proudly, quite a long time too, proudly there. The fact is, though, we couldn't afford to keep it there forever. We only had so much money, and you only can put it there so long. So my question to you is, by removing our banner because we no longer could afford it, did we help another university? And in helping that other university, did we lose students ourselves? We get to look at who we are as a university now. And the new normal is we have to be introspective in what type of university we want to be in the coming decade. And this is just one small example. We can certainly make peanuts the same way, but we're not going to reach a wider audience as a university if we don't modify something in what we're already doing. Are you following me? And it may be just a small, subtle shift, or it might be a slightly different twist on a name, not our name, but on a marketing campaign or something. Or it might be just playing to a different audience just so that we can get them to look at us. That is really important because doing exactly what we're doing now won't necessarily get us a wider audience, and no wider audience does mean simply we're not going to be able to afford the things we want to pay for, whether that is more faculty or different degree programs or more scholarships. Those things all kind of interrelate together. Part of BH's outreach, new revenue, and marketing is linked squarely to the University Center Rapid City, the UCRC for the new faculty that are in the room. Nearly 87% of our curriculum is provided by BH, and nearly half of our overall students take courses through UCRC. You heard me correctly. It's approaching nearly half of all of our students taking courses at UCRC. Now, the truth is South Dakota wants its citizens, more of its citizens, to earn a college degree. And the greatest potential we have for first-time new students is through UCRC. When we think about the asset of the UCRC, I want you to think about it this way. They are providing an access point for adult learners, which are very important to the economy and the workforce, and to BH. We start 87% of those students there. And whether they come to BH or go somewhere else, they become products of South Dakota. That's good for South Dakota. Part of our goal is to get them to come to BH. Now, in a way, there's a side of us that says, well, you know, that's UCRC. I'm here. I really want them to come here. But again, when I was talking about the wider audience, we have to modify just a little bit to capture that group, to want them to come here. So if we're teaching a similar course and we say, oh, no, I just don't do that online thing, that's the UCRC. Well, that's really, in a way, the new normal for many of those students. and not evolving some of what we do is essentially saying, I don't need that student. And saying I don't need that student is cutting off the money stream to the university. Now, over the last couple months, month and a half, I've been wandering around listening to a lot of different individuals, and I'll continue to do that. But the things that I've been hearing are really clustered into about 4 different themes. I am not calling these priorities, even though I've said that somewhere else. These are not priorities. These are themes. These are not goals. They're themes. Whatever you do, don't get ahead of me. These are just talking points that I use because as a new president, people ask you, well, what do you think? And so I say, this is what I think. These are the 4 things that I've clustered, generally speaking, as things that I've been discussing to others out and about. They fall into external relations, student success, faculty teaching and undergraduate research, and global education. Let me break those down for just a moment. When I talk about external relations, this is what's really floating inside my head. Sanford Lab, UCRC, corporate friends, local community, those kind of things. When I talk about student success, I'm really making reference to some of these areas, and many of them make sense. I'm only going to say something about retention and mental health, though. The retention side, we sit slightly below some of the other universities in South Dakota. It's harder to get a new student to come to this university than it is to keep someone that is already here. And in a strange way, if we can get a student to qualify to come to this university, then what is it that we have done or they have done to cause them to leave after 3 months or a year? What I'm suggesting is every student that comes to this university, we have to put an enormous amount of energy into keeping them in this university because replacing them costs us a lot more, and it's harder for us to get them here. And so if we can get a member to this family, let's do absolutely everything we can to keep them here. And I think that's the secret, one of the many secrets, to retention. The other piece is mental health. And oddly, for our students, our staff, our faculty, members of this community, we certainly have challenges with mental health, the medications that we take, the issues that our students bring to a university setting. In some respects, we have it fairly nicely at BH. But there are really nice communities in other places that have been traumatized by mental health as well. And I don't know if our time is coming or if we will always avoid it, but I'm cognizant that it is something we have to address. Let me begin to wrap up with the last 2, faculty, teaching, and research. There's a number there that says 65%, and that really is linked to the accreditation of the business school. We pay our faculty, our staff in general, 65% of market, give or take. Now, I don't know if that's a good number for you, but I'd rather have it at 110%. But, and my guess is you would too, probably 200%. But 65% is where we tend to pay for market. And that's not that far than some of the other places that we compare ourselves to. But it is a goal, or a hidden goal, of something we all should try and work toward improving over the next several years. If you wonder what I'm talking about faculty development, I will use it in the same context when I talk about retention. It takes a little energy to get new faculty or staff members to this university. Whether they are lecturers or adjuncts, they're in the pipeline to becoming tenure track at some point in time, correct? And a number of you started off as adjuncts in Spearfish working for this university, waiting for your shot, and you got it, and now you're tenure track, if not full. I don't know if there's any in the room, but there are those here. So our pipeline is that, in a way, in many respects. And so the cultivation of that, when we get you here to even adjunct, part of our effort is to get you so good that when the opportunity presents itself for you to be tenure track, you're the greatest you ever could be. I've already talked about undergraduate research. Let me say a word about base versus opportunity, and I alluded to this just a moment ago. The base versus opportunity. There are some things that we do very well, and there are some things that are emerging. And the chasm for us is, for those of us in the base, we're saying, I need more resources because this is who we are. And those in the emerging are saying, I need more resources because this is what we're becoming. You see the dynamic? And there's only so many resources, and this is just not the academy, although that's what I'm focused on at the moment. This is institutional-wide. And so we're balancing the base versus the opportunity. And how does this really look? Our top enrolled programs, business, elementary ed, biology, psychology, mass communication, these are based on 2013 numbers. What you see here is where we're growing and what we're becoming and what students are signing up for. In the market trend and the workforce, what the workforce is asking for, applied health sciences, exercise science, fastest growing one probably in the United States, psychology, graphic design. These are over the past 5 years. I'm going to wrap up now with, or almost wrap up with global education, and that's the fourth final theme that I've been talking about. And you see the topics there. When I say global competencies, what I'm referring to is that our students who live in a global world today, may be a little different than you and I, have the competencies to do the things they're supposed to do anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. So when we graduate them from BH and they say, I want to go to Amsterdam or India or some other place, they are competent in that field, if not the culture, where they will thrive as an alum and make us proud in a significant way. The last section has to do with brothers and sisters, and I make this reference to refer to those in facilities, alumni, student affairs, athletics, technology, library, and all others. Before I became the president, there was a saying that I often heard, and it went something like this: be as kind to the groundskeeper as you are the president of the university. And many of you have been very kind to me, but if I can now, as your president, say the same thing, sort of, because it's nice of you being kind. Be as kind to the groundskeeper as you are to me, because when those groundskeepers, housekeepers, facilities workers, all those other things aren't here, guess where they are and guess who they are? They are our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents. They're the people we go riding with or drinking with. They're the ones we see in Walmart or Kmart or somewhere else. They are part of this same family outside of this environment. And so that's who I'm referring to when I refer to the brothers and sisters of this campus community. Collectively, they have all had many great successes, and I'm only going to talk about a couple of them, and you see them up here. We're just a short couple of weeks, if not more than 2 months, away from the grand opening of the Joy Proctor Crouchen Alumni Foundation Center. One of the other great successes here would be the campus roofs and keeping the infrastructure in place and changing some of the lighting to be more energy efficient. But the one I want to talk about before I read some of the final notes would be trees. It was last year, many of you know, we lost 250 trees destroyed because of Storm Atlas. Well, the good news is Kathy and her team and many others will be replacing up to, give or take, about 125 of those trees over the next several years. For athletics, the summer BH students received the RMAC, the Sportsmanship Cup, for the second year in a row. The second year in a row we received the Sportsmanship Cup. And we also received an award in 3 of our sports for having the best GPA in those sports, indoor and outdoor track and women's softball. I'm almost done, folks. I'm going to show you a video that was just created by Kristen, Ryan, Adam, and Jen in marketing, in communications and marketing. They put this together hopefully to put a little happiness in your day today. And at the very end, I'm going to wrap up with just a couple of quotes and allow you to return to all the things that you were planning to do for the day.
We are Black Hills State University.
We are green and we are bold.
We fill galleries and pack houses.
We go to the depths of the earth in search of answers.
And we reach new heights each and every year.
We pass on what we've learned.
And we leave behind a legacy of caring and service.
We welcome new ideas, and we celebrate who we are and where we come from.
We know where we are going, and we are ready to take on the challenges ahead.
We are
We are.
We are
Black Hills State University, green and gold.
bold.
What you think? I only have 2 slides left, and they're my wrap-ups. For everyone in this room who wonders where your president stands at the end of the day, it's the free expression of ideas and the intellectual and collegial discussion of those intellectual discussion of those ideas. So in closing, I'm going to ask you to do just one thing. Actually, there are 5 things. But you're going to have to say this with me. It's at the end of each one of these things, you have to yell and have fun doing it. Okay, not hallelujah, but have fun doing it. Okay, okay? So, recommit to serving students the best way we know how. And have fun doing it. I feel like a preacher, gee whiz. Maintain a contagious positive attitude. Focus on what we have and not what we do not. Get out of your comfort zone and find a new one. And enjoy your colleagues and students. Thanks all of you for your attention today, and have a wonderful day.